So, everybody, I would love to introduce to you my friend Carol Egan from Avon in Connecticut. Carol is a high performance health coach, and she works with people who actually have discovered that in their works journey they have let go the performance of their body and their health. And this, of course, can lead to an increasing difficulty around disease. And I would like for Carol to tell you a bit about this. So, Carol, before we go on to diseases and what you do and illness, can you please tell us something which is happening in your current life that is a little bit different or quirky or of interest to you?
Well, hi, Liz. I'm just so happy to be here with you. So, something quirky that I'm up to these days. Well, I'm headed out to the West Coast. My dad, I don't know if I ever told you, Liz, was a monk in a monastery. And so I'm actually going out to a conference in Oregon with a group of entrepreneurs in a circle that I belong to. And then I'm going to go up to the monastery for a week after to visit with the monks. My dad has passed. So I'm going to spend some time at the monastery. And I might say that that might qualify as a little quirky.
Yeah, I think it does. And it actually sounds really appealing. It sounds like a great place to be. I bet they can welcome you with open arms and make you feel somewhat special. Is that what you would say?
Liz, they open me as most men might welcome me because I was the first woman allowed into their private sanctuary where in the kitchen I cook for them when I go. They love my cooking, and I started with one meal, and before you knew it, I would spend a lot of time in the private quarters getting to know the monks a little bit better. So it's been an extraordinary experience.
That is fabulous, unique. I'll tell you what, I didn't know that about you, but I'm not surprised that these people could embrace you. So I understand you to be a humanitarian, and obviously they do too. So
Yeah.
well done you, yeah. So Carol, tell me a little bit about the nature of what you do and perhaps how it makes you feel to help those that you do help.
So Liz, as you said when you introduced me, I am what I call a high performance health coach. I work with people who got into the game of achieving their best. They hit all the nails. They got the corner lot. They got the corner office. They got the wife or the perfect wife or the perfect husband, the two kids, and the vacations. They got everything that the system said, this is fantastic. You're good. You really arrived now. And then they wake up in the morning and they look in the mirror, maybe after getting a diagnosis from a doctor, and they say, through a state of exhaustion and stress, what happened? I did everything the right way. Why do I look and feel so lousy? And they're ready to take that on. They're not, because they're high performers, they can't settle in that space, even though they might have been pulled out into that existence. And how does it make me feel? I get high. I literally get high on my work. And it's extraordinary the way it shows up, the way the resistance might come into the space in spite of the success they've created, and the ways that we're able to break that down to create the results they want. And so for me, Liz, it's never about the weight loss or the renewed energy or the going off medication or the defying Western medicine and creating results that they say were impossible. It's what the client then is able to create in their lives for what really matters to them, because they have the energy, because they're free from spending all their time bopping around from this specialist to that doctor. You know, it's what becomes possible because they look and feel so good again. That's what I get high on.
Well, I think I would get high on that too if I could do it.
Yeah.
Fabulous. And on the result too, if I were the client in that case, or your client in that case, I would be so grateful for that outcome. I needed you a few years ago, I must admit. I'm really intrigued to understand what's brought you to this position of expert in such a profound way, actually. It seems to me that what you're doing is so profound for people and not mainstream. And obviously something's happened to bring you to this place. Can you elaborate for us?
So when I was young, very young, I had what I would call a very sensitive constitution. I would get motion sickness and I would feel a little frail, not strong, not vitally strong. So because of my research, I've discovered that there is a generational impact of chronic illness, chronic health problems, chronic disease on the human frame. How can we think in today's world now, with the impact of the modern lifestyle on us, that a mother or a father who then conceives a child, that this embryo is created from tissue that is sick? I believe that I was born, Liz, with a sensitive constitution, and it set the stage through my life. But it got to the point, I'm going to say in my early, mid-20s, that it was irrefutable that I was spiraling down. I was going from one specialist to one doctor to having a whole team of doctors. And nobody could tell me why I was spiraling out, why I was so unhealthy, why my body was breaking down. And, I could give you all of the scenarios of what led to the breaking moment, but it got to the moment where I knew I had to find somebody that could help me feel better. And so, Liz, there was this moment. There were all kinds of signs that I started to feel despair. But I didn't know how to challenge these normal mainstream ways of doing things. Everybody goes to the doctor. Everybody takes medication. It's normal. How would I challenge a doctor or a whole belief system about this? And one of the symptoms of the many, and I wasn't diagnosed with heart disease or cancer, but I had a 2 arms length full of diagnoses that were considered normal today. And one of those symptoms was anxiety. And one of the specialists that I went to said, I want you to take Xanax 3 times a day. And when I took the dosage that he prescribed, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't go to work. And so I went to the pharmacist and I said, I need to take this, but it's too strong for me. She said, I agree, you're petite. It would be too strong, but I can't just change it. Let me call the doctor. And so I thought, great. And I heard her talking to the receptionist, and then I could tell she switched gears. It must be the nurse. And then I could tell she was talking to the doctor. And she said, the doctor wants to talk to you. And she passed the phone over the counter to me. And I'm thinking to myself, as she's passing the phone, great, he'll understand. But he greeted me with, why are you challenging my prescription? I thought you said you trusted me. And I said, doctor, I do trust you, but I can't get out of bed. It's too strong. And he said, look, do you know anxiety leads to panic attacks? And do you know what comes after that? And I said, I don't, doctor. Now remember, Liz, I'm standing there with anxiety. And the anxiety is starting to escalate now with the way he's confronting me and challenging me. And I said, no, doctor, I don't know what happens. And he said, suicide. Panic attacks lead to suicide. And I stood there. And it was almost like a glaze took over of fear. And my heart fell. And I thought, my God. In that moment, I knew I had to find somebody who could help me. Because what is he saying? Is he saying I'm going to kill myself? What is he saying? And it was a life-altering fear, but a life-altering force that rose up from within me. And I was like, no freaking way. I'm in my prime. I've got to find somebody. And it was a fire. So that's why I could surmount the endless roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And why I could stick with, because I've changed the whole course of my life. I'm living a life that was not even in my dreams. And so I know what's possible when we dip in and out of self-care in these ways. I was in the prime that people say I was in the prime of my life. I can tell you I'm in the prime of my life now. But at that time, we think that it's the prime of life, and I was losing my sass. I was losing my fun and my effervescence for life. I was feeling separated from my highest self. And intuitively, I knew something was terribly wrong. And that, I'm going to say, unwittingly, I didn't know, but it started a fire in my belly. And ironically, when I resigned, through the stages of personal and professional development, I taught high school for a few years. And when I resigned from teaching, because I knew that this was the work I was supposed to be doing, in a calling kind of a way, when I gave away hundreds of books to a poor community college, the books that I kept were personal development, health, and spirituality. Everything else I gave away, and I'm telling you, I gave probably 400 books to a poor community college, and they said they hadn't had an endowment like that since the 70s. So I started the game of really building on what I knew I was called to do. And it was because of the breakdown in my life. I mean, there was a time, Liz, that I didn't have a life. I worked. I came home. I took care of my home. I went to bed and I went back to work. And in between, the only things I did was go to the doctor or, pretend to have a life, have friendships that were out of alignment with who I really was. It wasn't the created life. The work I do in every way, personally and professionally, with myself and with my clients, is to live the created life.
And how would you describe the created life then?
Well, for me, the created life begins in 3 ways. And ironically, it's the 3 buckets of my work. And if we don't pull out of each of these buckets, it's like icing on a mud pie. It's not real. And so I like to say that the created life happens on a cellular level. If we're biochemically off, everything is to look good. It's to hit another nail. And I've been hurt by that. I spent a lifetime hitting the nails. That's why my client is me. And I help my clients heal their body on a cellular level, because then when the chemical balance starts to shift in place, and we're doing mindset work, the second bucket is belief systems and thought patterns. We've been told Americans don't eat like this, or Londoners don't eat like that, or in Spain, we don't eat like that. This is the way we've done this for generations. And yet the statistics of chronic disease, according to the World Health Organization, we're dying at epidemic rates of chronic disease. So we have to shift our mindset. We have to shift and challenge our belief systems and our thought patterns. It's a must. It's paramount. And the third bucket is, we could call it the emotional, or we could call it the spiritual bucket. I call it relationship to self. And let's say you shift your mindset and you get your body starting to come more in balance, but yet you're not really related to your definition of the highest expression of you. And we could call that a spiritual, we could call that Mother Nature. I like to say, that I've learned that we have a mother and a father, and that is the divinity and Mother Nature. And when we pull from all of this, it's absolutely mind-blowing what I see happen for my clients, because we tap all of these buckets.
3 buckets. I haven't heard you say that before, but provide some clarity to me in terms of what you do. And I certainly understand each of those buckets. I have dealt with them myself. And I agree that leads to a wholeness. Mother Earth is so very, very important. So now I know actually even more clearly why I invited you to be part of this, and I'm so glad you've taken it up. But can you please perhaps elaborate as to why? Why did you choose to become a co-founder as part of this community?
Liz, I wanted to join you and this budding community. Of course, you and I started in very undeveloped ways. We were just getting to know each other. We were just talking, and, one idea, let me come to London. That was exciting. And I look forward to that still happening. But I'm going to say that I joined this community because of you and the energy that I feel from you, and your calling to be of contribution in important ways, but in a brilliant way also. Like, the more I talk about, to other people who you are and what you're creating, the more I'm taking in really the brilliance of being of contribution here and being of service here. And of course, the area that you're being of contribution, you're being of service, and the area that you're being of service, you're being of contribution. It's really magical. That's when there's alignment. There's a feel-good factor. And I have declared that I'm just not doing anything that doesn't energetically feel aligned and smart and playing at a higher level. I don't play small games. I play to win, and I play to challenge, I'm going to say, high performers, to really take a look at where they're out of integrity in that game of really being a high performer in the smartest, holistic ways.
And I trust you will do that, and I believe you'll do that with me too. And I could do with being challenged. You know, I'm fine for this.
The way you managed the call with the 5 of us, the 6 of us, however many was on the last call, was a sight to behold, an energy to experience. And so I would encourage you, and I would say that from this collaboration, this is of a higher order. We will all inspire each other.
Totally.
The ways that you handled that were as valuable to me as the kinds of things that I just said today that inspired you. We will continue to feed each other, and that really is utopia.
Yes. Yes, and community at its best. And we will do the same for other people, and they will do the same for us.
Yes.
So moving forward then, just to sort of perhaps present to us what it is or how it is that you anticipate being involved in this community, or at least bringing your work to the community. And, you know, what do you want to bring? What do you feel is right?
Well, we talked about, you know, what I wanted to bring to this community was what I'm going to call a gateway to a higher level game of being your healthiest self. You know, there's a sophistication and a complexity to the work that I offer. And there's also an entry level to it that makes it accessible for people who could be disconnected from playing a higher level game in these 3 buckets that I've described. And so what I would love to offer this community is a doable, accessible, approachable program that makes really profound of results. I've seen people lose 20 pounds in a week's time in the program that I'm going to be offering. That's probably the grander result that's possible. But it for weight loss, that could start at 5 and move to 20 in a very short amount of time. But again, it's what becomes possible. You know, one client, the program they're going to offer this program, one person said, she was given this compliment. Carol, somebody said to me, you have a spring in your step. What are you doing? And I loved that. I love that because it's not the weight loss. It's the spring. What becomes possible because of the spring in the step? There's a whole energy shift. There's a whole new way of being. And how does that ripple into your relationships? How does that ripple into the different kinds of choices you make in life? And so my goal is to offer a doorway to a whole new way of being. And that really, it'll be primarily nutrition based, but there'll be dips in and out of those 3 buckets.
So thank you so much for coming on and for being part of this, for being a founding contributor. It is so important to us. It's so important to our community. We won't get off the ground without you. And you know, my gratitude.
Well, thank you for having me, Liz. And I look forward to all the ways that we get to be of contribution and service on both sides for those who are in need. Well, we're all in need, right? And I really look forward to all the ways that we get to join as a team to bring goodness and vitality and ginormous energy to everybody.